Everybody to our webinar today, which is using the eFile and pay system for business taxes. Our agenda of the things that we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about using the eFile and pay system. We're going to talk about updating your account information, adding more users or sub-users as we refer to them. We're going to talk about passwords and web user IDs, and also self-service account access. That'll help you get things get your reset or get your user ID if needed. So with that being said, we'll just move right on. The first thing I want to do is define a couple of terms. We do use a few different terms at the Department of Revenue here, especially regarding eFile and pay. So I just wanted to go through these here just briefly with you. The first one we have at the top, we have responsible parties. These folks are financially responsible for the business. So if you were a sole proprietorship, for example, the responsible party would be you, the owner, the sole proprietor. This is the person that's going to apply for the Iowa tax permit. They're going to receive the BEN and the Iowa tax permit in the mail, and they're the ones that's going to set up an administrative user in the eFile and pay system. So again, the responsible party, this is the person who is ultimately responsible for the taxes being filed and paid in a timely manner. When it gets to eFile and pay, we also have an administrative user, and this can be a third party. This can be an employee of the company. This is something the responsible party is going to give them permission to become the administrative user. This is basically for eFile and pay. This is the account manager. They have access to everything, all of the functions in eFile and pay. And they, the administrative user, they can set up sub-users and give them various permissions. We're going to talk about that here in just a little while. And they can also unlock any sub-users who happen to get locked out for some reason. Sub-users, this can be an employee, or this also can be a third party. This is someone who can use the system. This is someone besides the responsible party or besides the administrative user, and they are assigned certain permissions for the tasks that they can perform. So again, we'll spend a little more time on that coming up here in just a little while. The first thing, this is our website, and if you have not noticed, we did update our website here just recently. The website had a little facelift, and we tried to make things more user-friendly than it was in the past. But if you go to our website, which is tax.iowa.gov, and what you will come up here is with our home page. And if we're going to get into the eFile and pay system, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little red tab up there that says eFile and pay. If we click on that, that's going to get us into the eFile and pay system, okay? And when you get to the eFile and pay system and you get to the welcome screen, the upper half of the screen is where you do some entries as far as if you're going to file your business taxes. If you'll notice in the lower half of the welcome screen, there is a place there where you can make individual income tax payments, corporate tax payments, consumers use tax payments if you do not have a tax permit with the department. We're mainly focusing here today on the upper portion of the panel, which is for business taxes. This would be for doing things such as sales tax or Iowa withholding tax or use tax. That's what we're going to concentrate on here today. Once you get to the welcome screen, you enter your BEN, you're going to come to the login screen. The left-hand side, again, is just on the slides here, the left-hand side is just the welcome screen, just so you can see it again. And on the right-hand side, we're actually going to go to the actual login. And this is where you're going to put in your business you've already put in your business eFile number. You're going to put in your web user ID, and you're going to put in your password. Now, for those of you that are starting out, once you get a tax permit from the Department of Revenue, the first time you get into the eFile and pay system, you're going to set up your user ID and your password, okay? And you will use that going forward, logging in. So once we have logged in, the next screen that you're going to come up with here is how to update some account information. Excuse me. You're not going to get that when you hit the login. I'm going to tell you how you can update your account information. In this situation, this is how people can access eFile and pay. The first question here is, has the responsible party changed, okay? Again, in the example of a sole proprietorship, this would be the owner. Has there been a change? If there has been a change, well, we're going to have to do some things to get the system updated. As a sole proprietor, if they sold out, they got somebody new took over, that's going to require a new tax permit. But let's say it's a different type of business entity. Maybe it's a corporation of some type. If the responsible parties have changed, maybe a person has moved on, they're no longer employed there, and now there's a new responsible party. You're going to have to update your account information. And to do that, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change the responsible parties by submitting our change form. And how do you do that? Well, on our new website, you're going to hover over the spot toward the top there where it says, I need to. And when you hover over that, you're going to get a menu that's going to drop down, just like we have on the screen here. And highlighted in red with that red arrow is the place where you click on to change or cancel a permit. Once you click on that, you're going to come up with the menu of the form that you're trying to find. And again, change a permit. This is what you're going to do. When you click on the change a permit, you're going to come up with the two methods of updating your information, okay? You can update and make your changes to update your responsible parties. You can do that online, which is kind of a handy feature. You can complete everything and submit it electronically. You don't have to print anything. You don't have to mail anything. You don't have to fax anything. Or you can come up with the paper form to do this. What this is doing, again, you're going to remove old responsible parties and you're going to add new responsible parties. It's very important that you keep this up with current contact information, because the problem that happens is sometime down the road, when you do not have access to the system, you got locked out, something happened, and you don't have anybody, a responsible party was set up back in 1992. Don't laugh, that's not a joke. I see that all the time. Responsible parties, officers, these things haven't been updated since the 90s. So that's not a good thing when you're trying to access and get information from the department. We have to have the proper contact people listed in our system. So again, submitting the change form, that's can be done online or by paper. A couple other things just for your information. That's also where you can update an address if you need to. You can change a name if you need to, as far as a business name. Maybe you want to change a mailing address to a P.O. box, change a location address. That can be done on these forms as well. So something to be aware of. Just keep in mind though, update, update, update. Make sure you've got the proper contact people shown in our system. If you don't have that, when the day comes that you have to file, you're going to have some difficulties then if there's no responsible parties that are still working for your company shown in our system. Okay. For eFile and Pay access, if the responsible parties have not changed, here is the form that you submit to the department in order to have the password reset. Okay, this is if you get locked out, if there's a problem, we have a form that you can submit to the department, so we will reset your password. In this situation, you'll kind of hover over the section that says tax forms, and this little menu will pop up. And the one highlighted in red is the tax forms index. Once you click on the tax forms index, you're going to get the little menu of the various forms. And for this one, the form that we're going to have on here is the one highlighted here with the red arrow, is to reset the password for the eFile and Pay system. Now, maybe some of you have dealt with this one before. We get lots of these that are submitted to the department. And here's what the form looks like. This is where you put in your information. You put in your BEN, you put in your permit number, you put in the business name, all of the information that's on here. An important thing to remember though, this has to be signed by, it's listed in the paragraph above the signature there. It's going to have to be signed by someone who is an owner. Maybe they're a power of attorney. Maybe there's some type of authorized user or responsible party. It's going to take a signature of somebody before we will reset your password in this situation. What happens quite frequently, we will have somebody that is the third-party bookkeeper. They are not any of the responsible parties. They are not a power of attorney, and they'll just fill this form out and send it to us. It can be submitted electronically by email. The link is down at the bottom of the page. But what happens in that situation is this third-party bookkeeper, they are not listed as one of our responsible parties or a power of attorney. So we cannot reset the password for them. So make sure that the person who is signing it, make sure they are the proper person that has the authority to do the signing. Again, if you don't do that, you're going to be unhappy with the department when we can't reset the password for you. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. It's very important, and I know I'm going to repeat myself several times here, but I want to stress to you the importance of keeping your account current. Make sure that the contact name on the account is up to date. The eFile and Pay administrative user is very important. I've had people that I've talked to on the phone, and they say that they've been the administrative user, and I use my air quotes there, for the last several years. Well, the person that used to be the administrative user, their name is still listed there. Their contact information is still listed there. So if there is a new person that takes over the administrative user position for eFile and Pay, you need to make sure you update that, okay? You can have more than one contact for the eFile and Pay system. In our example here, we've got John Doe or Jane Smith. I've seen that happen on occasions where there are multiple names listed. That's not a bad thing, but you have to remember, anytime that there's a staff turnover where you have some new people that are going to be responsible for getting into eFile and Pay and doing your filings, you need to make sure you update the system. Again, the reason that that's important is if you are ever locked out or have an issue, we cannot help you if your name is not listed on the system. So it's very important. Looks like we got a quick question. This one is from Kathy. How can you find out who is listed as the responsible party if the business has been in effect for many years? That's a common question. What we can do, we can give out responsible parties if there's a power of attorney on file, or if there are other responsible parties, they can call in and check to see who is in there. You're going to have to give us a call for that. You could shoot us an email as well, but the person doing the asking is going to have to contact the department, and they're going to have to be a person that we can get that information out to. The department takes confidentiality very serious, and some of these contact names as far as who's a power of attorney, that's confidential information. We can't give that out. Some of these officers, we can't give that information either unless you are also listed as a responsible party or power of attorney. So very good question. Again, to reiterate though, if you are the administrative user in eFile and Pay, make sure you update that profile. We'll have the screen will pop up here after a bit. I'll show you kind of where that's at. But once you log into eFile and Pay as the administrative user, you're going to get the main menu, and that shows all the different administrative functions that you can perform. Make sure you update that profile. That's very important. As I said, you need your web user ID to get into eFile and Pay. You need your BEN, your business eFile number. That's something that we mail you when you apply for an Iowa tax permit. We will give you the BEN. You're also going to have a web user ID, and you're going to have a password. For web user IDs, here's the rules for setting up a web user ID. And some of you may have been around for a while. You remember back in the day when we had 4 characters, everybody's user ID was 0001. It was like that for years. Security-wise, that's not the best thing. So when we enhanced the security in the eFile and Pay system, we changed the web user ID rules. It now has to contain at least 6 characters. These characters can be upper or lowercase letters. They can be numbers, or they can be one of the 2 following special characters. They can be either an underscore or they can be the @ sign. Okay, that's all that we're going to allow. Once you set up your user ID, that does not expire. That does not have to be changed. That's just something you do one time, and it will remain in effect. As I said, does not expire. So once you set that up the first time, you are good going forward. The screen that we have here is the main menu for the eFile and Pay system. Once you log into the system, this shows the different functions that can be performed in eFile and Pay. And the one that we have the red arrow pointing at here is adding or editing users. So what we're going to talk about is adding a sub-user to this account. But another thing I want to point out to you as well, you want to make sure that you update the profile. If you are the administrative user, make sure that you update that. That is one function that you can perform. You can also view history and some other things down toward the bottom of the screen. But take a look at that sometime and just see what things you can do from the main menu. Again, updating the profile is, or changing the profile, that's something very important when you get new people that are going to be using the system. So let's say you are the administrative user and you decide, I want to get some other people that can use the system. So how do we do that? We click on where it says add or edit users. And then we're going to get this screen is going to pop up. And on this particular screen, this is going to show any sub-users that are listed. Since we don't have any in this example, there's nobody listed there. But in order to add some folks that can be users, we're going to click on the blue button in the lower right-hand corner that says add a user. Here's the user administration screen. This is the screen that you will put in the information for this new sub-user. You're going to put in all their contact information. You're also going to have to assign this user rights of the tasks that they can perform in eFile and Pay. Oh, where do you go to add a sub-user? I see a question here from Gregory. To add a sub-user, again, we're back to I'm going to back up a little bit. If you're the administrative user and you log into eFile and Pay, you're going to come to the main menu. And that's what I have up here on the screen is the main menu. And where we have the little red arrow there, it says add or edit users. That's where you're going to go to add or edit a sub-user, okay? And as I said, once we click on that link, we're going to get the list of the administrative users is on this particular screen. And when we click add user, we're going to come up to this screen. So good questions. So for the administrative user, we have to put all the contact information. This is the profile for the sub-user. It's going to put their name, their contact information in there. You're also going to have to assign them some different tasks that they can perform. This is something that is in the lower half of the screen, and I'm just going to move forward a little bit so we can look at these in a little bit more detail. The top portion of the screen for adding the user administration information, this is where you're going to put in the contact information. You're going to put in the password information and stuff for the sub-user. And one thing to keep in mind on this one, the web user ID for this one can't be changed once you set it up. So if you were to set me up, say set Terry O'Neill up as a sub-user to file your sales tax return, put a user ID in there. We recommend do not put the person's name in there. Because if you get another person, you know, down the road, they're going to take over these duties, you're not going to be able to change their name. So for user ID, we recommend maybe you put in the position title or something. That might be an option for you, or you can use something else too. But we don't recommend using the person's name, again, because as you have turnover, that name is not always going to be on there. Let's see, we have a question here from Karen. If our user ID is currently 0001, will we have to change it? Basically, yes. We're going to have to reset something for that for you because the user ID is now 6 characters long. So that tells me you're probably under the old system. Contact the department. Again, if you are the administrative user, we can reset that for you. Or you can have a responsible party can contact the department. We can reset it for you as well. So good question. All righty. Again, this is the upper half of, it's basically the profile for the sub-user. You're putting in all of their information. The next screen that we're going to look at, this is the bottom portion of that, of the screen. And this is where, this is going to tell you how to access, not how to access, it's going to tell you the permissions for various tasks that sub-users can perform. And they've got them, we've got them listed here. We have a preparer, here's the rights, what they can do. You have somebody that can file only, there's their rights, the things they can do. Pay only, file and pay, upload, or no access. Why would you have that? Maybe you have multiple tax types that you're going to file with Iowa, and maybe you've got a person that's going to do your payroll. Well, you don't want to give them permission to deal with sales tax, possibly, if they're the payroll person. So something to keep in mind. Let's see. Looks like we got a couple of questions here. Can multiple entities that file sales or use tax be added under one account? I think this is from an anonymous attendee. On this one, I think, are you saying that you have multiple tax permits? If that's what you're saying, if you have multiple sales tax permits, you can apply for a consolidated permit, and you can do one filing for all of those locations. If these are different entities, you're going to have a different sales tax permit for each entity in order to file. So if you need a little more clarification or something, please ask. But that's how it's handled for multiple. If you have multiple locations, you can do a consolidated permit. Next question, we have 1099s. That's coming up that's in November, I believe. We've got a webinar on that. Chet from our department is going to do the 1099s. So tune in to us in November, and Chet will provide you information with that. Okay, this one is Amy. Where can you authorize a third party to view my withholding account details, file and pay, or other activities without having to log into my account? Amy, that's what we're on here. We are on the giving sub-users different permissions, and that's what you would do. Again, from the main menu, you would click on Add or Edit a User, and we would move through these screens. You would put in their information in here. So a third party, maybe you've got an accountant or someone that takes care of your payroll for you. You would put their information in here. You would give them the proper permission that you want them to have so that they can access the system. In this particular example that we have up on the screen right now, this is for the tax types, various tax types and various activities that could be accomplished in eFile and Pay. And in this example, maybe we've got a third party that's going to file your withholding. So if you notice, we've given them permission in the far right-hand side, the second line down for withholding, it says File and Pay. So they have access to File and Pay. They do not have access to other tax types. They can upload W-2 information and upload 1099 information. Again, tune in November when Chet's here. He'll explain about that. And you'll notice for sales tax, for this particular example, they don't have any permission. This is just a payroll person. They don't want them to have anything to do with sales tax. So that's how you would add a user, and again, give them permission, and they can log in as per the permission that you've given them.
And they'd be logging in their own account.
That's correct. They would log in their own account.
Not in your account.
Not in your account, absolutely. So hopefully, Amy, that clears some things up for you just a little bit. Gregory, again, asking, can the preparer also file? They certainly can. Again, as a sub-user, you can set them up and give them permission to do the filings for you. This is all done when you click on that main menu, Add or Edit a sub-user. All righty. Once you have entered all of the information for your sub-user, the sub-user will be listed in our system, and you'll notice kind of in the top of the screen here toward the top, it's in bold blue print. It says the user has successfully been added. So that way you will know that, yep, everything I entered was good, the system took it, and they now have access per the permissions that you have given them so that they can use the eFile and Pay system. Back here again to the main menu. Let's say that maybe you've got an existing sub-user and you need to update some information. Who knows? Maybe a person got married, their last name changed. Maybe you want to give them permission to work with both sales tax and withholding tax. You just want to update something. It's the same person, but you need to update some things. Again, we're going to click on Add or Edit Users. And when we do that, the person's name is going to be shown there on this screen, and you will click on the user that you wish to make the update for, There could be multiples on here, you know, if you have several sub-users, but click on the individual that you want to update the system for. And when you do that, you'll come to this screen, and that's where you can update the profile of the sub-user. Okay, so you'll be able to, if their name changed, maybe their contact information changed, maybe they got a new email address, you can make all of those changes in here. Again, just to remind you, if you are the administrative user, if things change for you as well, maybe you got a new email address, maybe your telephone number changed, maybe somebody got married, their last name changed, get into the user profile from the main menu if you are the administrative user, and make sure you update that information. Again, very important, because if you do not update that information, sometime down the road, if you have trouble getting into our system, you're not going to be very happy with us when we can't help you because your name's not listed in our system. So something to keep in mind. Okay, again, we updated our existing sub-user. I'm going to change gears just a little bit and talk about our passwords. So our passwords, with eFile and Pay, these have to be updated at least every 100 days. If you'll remember a while back, it used to be every 60 days. So we did improve that a little bit. It is 100 days now that has to be updated. We've also got a new upgrade to the system. It will start counting down the days. Once you get 30 days before your password expires, it will tell you. If you log into the system, it's going to say, hey, you've got 30 days before your password expires. You've got 28 days, you've got 20 days. So it'll kind of warn you and tell you to get your password changed. That's going to be kind of a nice feature as well. Passwords have to be at least 8 characters, okay? This can be either uppercase or lowercase. It does make a difference. So when you make sure you're entering the proper password using upper or lowercase letters or a combination of both. But again, it is case sensitive. The password must contain at least 1 letter. As I said, it is case sensitive. It's got to have at least 1 number, and it's got to have 1 special character. And it can only use the special characters that we have listed on the screen. Okay. It also only allows 2 repeating characters or numbers. So you can't just put in all zeros or all ones or something like that, or put in 5 ones in a row plus some other things. Only 2 repeating characters or numbers can be used. Looks like we got a couple other questions up here as well, so I'll take a look at those quick. This one again, our anonymous attendee. Assuming these changes need to be made before filing quarterly reports in September, October. If you are updating something, you'll want to make sure that you have the proper contact information in there. So you can certainly update your, if you've got to update the administrative user, if you've got to update sub-users, you can do that anytime. It needs to be updated, though, to have the proper contact person listed in our system. We've got Terry, if I am the administrative user and I leave employment, how do we assign a new administrative user? Okay. Before you leave employment, what you're going to have to do is maybe get the new administrative user, get them logged in under your login information, update the profile and set up a new password, and they can take over. Now, Terry, if you already leave and then the rest of the folks back at the office, they don't have your information to get into the system, that's where we can have a responsible party, an owner, a power of attorney, someone can contact the department and they can submit the request to reset the password, and we can do that for the administrative user. Then the new one can get in there, put in a new password, update their information, and they will have access going forward. Ideally, and I know things are not always ideal, you know, let's say that somebody was going to retire and the replacement starts, you know, a few days before the person retires. You can work at it together. Both of you can get into the system, and the new administrative user can enter their information, enter their password. That way the old user would not have access to any of that. All righty, good question. With the password, again, I've had people that I've talked to on the phone or I've dealt with through email. Take a deep breath. These password rules are shown in our eFile and Pay system. I know we're trying to hurry up. We're trying to file. It's getting down to crunch time, the due date and everything. You got to make a new password. Take a deep breath and look at these instructions. Make sure it meets these qualifications. At least 8 characters, has to have at least 1 letter, 1 number, 1 special character, only those special characters that we have listed on screen, and it only allows 2 repeating characters or numbers. I've been on the phone with some folks. I hope none of you are listening today, but I've been on the phone with some folks, and we've had to go through this 4 times because they miss one of these requirements. The system will not take it if you don't meet all of these requirements. So again, take a deep breath, just say, okay, do I have at least 1 letter, 1 number, 1 special character of those characters listed, and no more than 2 repeating characters or numbers. Hopefully you'll get that down, and that'll work for you. Alrighty. For changing the password, once you get to where your password has expired or you're going to update your password, this is the screen that you're going to see. You're going to have to update the current password. You're going to have to enter the current password, excuse me. You're going to have to put in a new password, and you're going to have to confirm your new password. We make you enter that twice to make sure that you didn't make a boo-boo or something or fumble when you were typing. So this is important. One thing with the passwords as well, you cannot reuse a password for 1 year. So you can't just switch every 100 days and use the one you used previously. You cannot reuse them within 1 year. So something to keep in mind. What if you forgot your password? That happens. If you're like me, you probably have so many passwords for everything possible. We all do in this day and age. So you forget your password one day, not the end of the world. What you can do is you can click on the link, and we've got it highlighted here by the red arrow. It says forgot password. If you click on that, and you're going to get some self-help here, basically is what it's going to come down to. In order to recover your forgotten password, you must provide the web user ID that your account was set up under, okay? So you're gonna have to type that in there. The system is then gonna ask you some other questions as well. So you've got your BEN listed on screen, you enter your user ID, and it's gonna ask you some password hint questions. And these are something that you should have set up. When you first got into eFile and Pay, you had to set these things up. And I get calls and I get emails from people, and they're like, geez, I don't recognize any of those questions. Okay, that tells me that you didn't update the profile. You need to make sure if you're the administrative user, update the profile, and you can put in your own questions with your hints, all right? If you're not recognizing these things, that tells me your your profile is not up to date. So make sure, again, you update that, including these password hint questions. If you recognize these questions, hopefully you set everything up. You're going to have to answer these questions. And when you do that, you can then set up a new password. You, again, have to meet our qualifications or our requirements for passwords, which I gave a few slides ago. And that's the one that's going to have at least 8 characters. It's going to have at least 1 letter, 1 number, 1 special character, and you can only have a maximum of 2 consecutive repeating characters. So this is how you will set up a new password using the self-help option. Looks like we've got a question here from Megan. If I am a bookkeeper filing as a third party for multiple businesses, do I have a separate user ID and password to go with each BEN? Yes, if they set you up as a separate, if they set you up as a sub-user, yes, you would, unless everybody assigned you the same password, I suppose. But generally speaking, yes, you'll have a separate user ID and password to go with each BEN. Because why is that? Each company that sets you up, each business that sets you up as a sub-user, they will be the one that will assign you a user ID, okay? So that's a very valid question. I can see that you're thinking, wow, I've got 50 clients, I'm gonna have 50 different passwords. That's a possibility, yes. Okay, again, we're talking a little bit here about some self-service account access. When you get locked out of the system for some reason, or you forget something, we do have some self-help options that are set up there. Again, this also, I got to stress again, I know I sound like a broken record. You get tired of me repeating myself, but you got to have that profile updated. Because if it's not updated, you're going to get, for some of these self-service things, it's going to say to contact Joe Smith that retired 6 years ago. So very important to keep this update. Let's say that your administrative user, for some reason, they forget their web user ID. And I get that, things happen. If we're going to recover our web user ID, we're going to be at this particular screen. And what we're going to click on is the screen to down in the lower left-hand corner. I guess I didn't put a red arrow in this one. It says forgot web user ID. If we click on that, the next screen that is going to show up is this particular screen. And for this one, you're going to enter some information in here. The BEN is going to show up automatically. You're going to have to enter the tax permit number for the tax type that you are working with. You're also going to have to tell us what tax type that is. The little drop-down arrow there is going to have the list of the various tax types. So if you were changing it for sales tax purposes, you would click on sales and you would put in the sales tax permit number on the line above that. You're also going to put in there the email address as well. The reason for this is it's going to be emailed to you. All right. So that's why we have the email address. In order to get your web user ID. So if we enter all of that information, the next screen that we're going to see after we hit continue in the lower right-hand corner is this particular one. And you notice in the bold blue print, it says your web user ID has been sent to the email address. You should receive it shortly. So that's going to tell you what your web user ID is, okay? As I said, the web user ID, we can reset it for you, but that's not something that expires. It's not something that normally changes. As long as you jot that down the first time you set it up, you're going to have it going forward. So that's not something you have to change all the time. A couple of questions here. I'll take the second one first. For our anonymous attendee, where will this recording be afterwards? And Patrick, I think, discussed that already. That'll be on the Iowa Source Link website, and you will be able to see that recording probably within a few days or so. They get them up pretty quick, so I would guess within a week for sure you would be able to see the recording of this presentation today.
Yeah, but so when you go on to Iowa Source Link, you go to resources, business webinars, and then Iowa tax webinars, or you can just search for Iowa tax webinars, and you'll be able to find the page where we have all of the upcoming and past webinars with their recordings listed. I'm also typing out an answer that everybody will be able to see in the Q&A that can help you find it.
Okay, Mary also has a question here. Again, this is related to bulk filing and submitting W-2s. I'm going to pass on that one until Chet's here in November. He'll go through the W-2 issues in the files and 1099s as well. So please come back for that one. Alrighty, some additional information, and again, I just want to give you some general reminders here about some things that we run into frequently. Don't share your password. That's just good cyber hygiene in general. Each user should have their own unique account and login credentials. You don't want to have multiple people sharing passwords. That's not a good thing. Identify your sub-users. This is something that you need to decide who needs to file returns and who needs to remit payments on behalf of the business. You can have several people that do this, but you need to identify those folks. You need to say, stop and think about this. Who do I want getting into the system, doing the filing for my business and doing the payments for my business? Power of attorney is something that's very important. Again, we take confidentiality very serious, and we don't want to be giving out any confidential information. So we require a power of attorney that's on file with the department to get permission or grant permission that we can give people information regarding your business. So it is something that is important. I'm going to show you where to get this power of attorney form here in just a little bit. A couple of other things that pop up frequently. When you are in the eFile and pay system, do not use a system that automatically saves your password, okay? When you get into eFile and pay, make sure you manually enter your user ID, your password, your BEN. Make sure you type that in every time you access the system. If you have a system that's going to save your passwords and stuff, that's going to cause you problems all the time, because you're going to end up, after 3 strikes, you're out. It locks you out of the system. If you're trying to use an expired password, it's not going to let you in. So make sure that you manually type in your user ID and your password each time you access the system. That's going to save you a little bit of grief in the long run. As I said, the power of attorney form, this is something that we need to have on file. If somebody that is not already in our system as a responsible party, owner, if they're not in our system, they're going to have a power of attorney before we're going to say basically anything to them. To find the power of attorney form, this is something where you are going to hover over the link for tax forms. If you kind of hover over it, then this is going to open up and you're going to get your choices here. It is highlighted in red, tax forms index. Once we click on the tax forms index, we are going to go to the menu for the various tax forms that we have. And for this one, we're going to click on the applications and other for forms. And when that menu opens up, you can scroll down until you find the power of attorney form. And that's on the left-hand side of the screen. That's highlighted in red for you as well. This is something that we're going to have on file if we want to get into any specifics regarding your Iowa tax returns or help you out with some of these issues that you may be coming across. One thing too, when I've been on the phone with people, I've been helping people before, the CEO is listed as a responsible party, and hey, that's perfectly legitimate. A common response that I get is, well, the CEO, they're too busy. They don't deal with this stuff. I need to deal with the eFile and pay. That's okay, but they better get you listed on there. Do a power of attorney form if you're the one that's going to be asking questions about their sales tax returns. Get somebody in there, give them some permissions so they can do these filings for you. It's very important. If your name's not in our system someplace, you're not going to be happy with us if we can't assist you. So again, keep things up to date, very important. A few informational things for you as well. On our website, we do have a tax research library. This doesn't specifically deal with eFile and pay. What this deals with is if you have questions for the department, maybe you're trying to find an answer about the taxability of something or how something is handled. We do have a tax research library where you can do some looking on your own. That's a tool that we use in my job in the taxpayer services section. We use this quite frequently. So that's something available on our website. Do some looking in there. You might find your answer to your question. We also have email updates, and this is something that does not cost you anything. You can subscribe to email updates, and then when there is ever any information that is updated, if there's something that we want to put out, we will send an email automatically. The topics that we have for our email updates are listed on this screen. We've got a variety of topics. And if you've been to my webinars before, I always say that I subscribe to all of these. Does everything that comes out on there, is that something that I need to know? No, but I can delete them. I would rather have the information and not need it than need the information and not have it. So it doesn't hurt to subscribe to these. If you don't like them, just unsubscribe. Again, doesn't cost a thing, but it is a good way of staying in touch with the department. It's very handy during tax season. If we have any tax preparers out there, it's pretty handy. If we ever have an issue that pops up, this is one way we can shoot out information relatively quickly to a lot of different folks. So something to keep in mind. The Department of Revenue is also on social media. We do have a Twitter account. We have 3 different Twitter accounts, actually. We also are on Facebook. This is just another way that you can keep in touch with the department. We put out information on there on a regular basis. It's good if there is an issue that pops up, maybe during tax season, we can shoot out some information to you right away. It's a handy way of staying in touch with the department. Let's see here. We've got a question again, or a suggestion. Let's check out, what does Mary say? I have a suggestion that I have done over the years. Add the date that needs to be updated, the password, about 2 days ahead of time. Also update your procedure manual. As I was saying a little bit earlier, Mary, we do have a countdown.
I think she's saying best practices for people in their own management of their passwords and in their own business procedure manuals.
Okay.
Be sure to add this new information into them, that they're staying on top of updating their information.
Okay, very good. So you're not telling me that I need to do this. I probably need it too, Mary. Okay, good suggestion. It's when it's as many of you probably know, when it's time for the tax returns to be filed, our phones just absolutely blow up. And it's very difficult to get through sometimes because of the number of folks that are having password issues. So that's why I say, if you have something that reminds you that you got to update them about 2 days ahead of time, that's a good thing. You don't want to have these issues come up at the end, right before crunch time. It seems that's when everybody's contacting us. Tempers get a little short sometimes, which I understand, but we want to try to keep up on these ahead of time. Don't want you to be late. Don't want you to be penalized. I don't want to see anybody pay any penalty or pay any interest. So that's why we're kind of giving you some reminders and some tips here for using our eFile and pay system. Alrighty. The purpose of this presentation today is for general educational purposes only. If you are involved in an audit or a protest with the department, this is not the place to address any of those issues. You're going to have to deal with your contact with the department that is working on your audit or protest, and this is not the place for that. So please keep that in mind. And with that being said, that wraps up the information I had for you here today. As always, I can't stress enough, update, update, update. It's discouraging to me when I'm on the phone trying to assist someone, or I'm emailing someone and they tell me, well, I've been filing through the eFile and pay system for the last 2, 3, 5 years, whatever the number is, but yet your name is nowhere in the system. If you are taking over as the administrative user because somebody retired or left employment, it doesn't matter. If the person's a new person taking over, update, update, update. Get that profile so it has the proper contact information in there. It'll save you some grief in the long run. If you're not sure who is the administrative user, when you log into eFile and pay, click on that change a profile, and it'll show you the name of the person who is listed as the administrative user in our system. If you get sub-users, if sub-users get locked out, if they have problems and their password expired and such, we can't assist them. You, the administrative user, is the one that has to reset their password, and you have to help them out. We can only reset for the administrative user, okay? So just a few things to remember. I know it's not always possible, but a reminder as well, don't wait till the last day to file. The way we have our eFile and pay system set up, you can file early. And if you do the ePay, you can have the ePayment come out on the date that the tax is due. So you can file on the 5th of the month. If your payment's not due till the 20th, set up your payment to come out on the 20th. There's nothing wrong with that, but I always say try to allow time in case there's an issue. If you wait till the last minute of the due date and then you can't get in or you have a password issue, you're going to be penalized. You will be assessed penalty and interest in that situation. So if you get in, a couple weeks ahead of time and then you realize you have a problem, that at least allows you a chance to come back tomorrow and get it done properly. So that's where I'm coming from on it. I just don't want you to get penalized. So please make sure you allow yourself time for a mulligan, so to speak. Okay. Looks like.
All right, well, if you have any last questions, go ahead and enter them in. We've got about just a few minutes left in this presentation for today. Big thanks to Terry. A couple things to keep in mind. We've got 3 webinars left in the 2019 series. Coming up on October 9th, we've got the Iowa Tax Law Legislative Update. That's October 9th at noon. That will last for 1 hour. On November 13th, we've got the electronic submission of W-2s and 1099s, always a popular one, so go out and register for that one. And then to wrap up the series on December 11th, we've got government and nonprofit sales tax issues. So be sure to go out and register for the other webinars that you wish to see. All of those will be recorded and stored on Iowa SourceLink along with this webinar. We, again, would like to thank you for attending on behalf of myself, Patrick at Iowa SourceLink, the Center for Business Growth and Innovation, and the Iowa Department of Revenue. We appreciate you being here, and we'll hopefully see you next month. And with no new questions, we'll go ahead and
wrap it up. And I see Ray out there. Good to hear from you again, Ray. Glad you're tuning in. So everybody, we hope to have you attend again in the future, and come and see us in October.